How y'all doing?
What's up, Nick? Nick, how can an addition like Bradley Roby help the team both in the short term and maybe long term?
Yeah, he has a lot of experience, both on the outside corner and at the nickel spot. So, we're a little banged up right there right now. So he gives us some good depth and a guy who's done it before, and we're excited to have him on this football team.
How long do you think it'd take him to kind of get familiar with the defense and all that?
Yeah, I don't know. We've had guys ready to play all sorts of different times, and so you never really can tell. The plan's still being worked out, right? Obviously, we don't have our game plan finished yet. We still have multiple days to work on that. So, we'll see. We'll see how long it takes. I know he's a really sharp guy, and so we'll see. I mean, everybody's a little bit different though.
Hey Nick, in reference to that 3rd and 11 where Brian wanted to pass and you decided to run the ball, how often does that happen? I guess whether it's over the course of a game or season.
16 times. Next question. No, I mean, I don't know.
Does it happen regularly in a game? Is it is it a normal thing? I guess for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't think people understand is we go through this process together, right? This is still as we come in here, the offense hasn't changed very much as far as the schemes that we're running from Shane to Brian, and so I was hired here to be an offensive coach, and so. I have a vision of what I want it to look like. I'm in every offensive meeting, both game planning meeting and offensive meeting. And so, that we think through everything together and talk through everything together. And so, obviously, just like with Shane, I'm sitting there and talking to him. It's no different. If you want the answer that I think you might be looking for, is there's no different from Shane and myself with Brian and then this one. Y'all just know, I just told you all, I gave you some information that maybe what didn't come up last year. So, but it's the same dynamic. So 16 times.
Nick, getting back to Bradley's presence, is that anything to do with trying to get James back more on the outside?
Yeah, again, he has experience, and we're banged up right now. So Howie did a great job of going finding a guy that we thought was pretty good last year. When we went in to play them when he was in New Orleans, and so yeah, it gives you more flexibility to do different things. We're confident in James at all positions, or pardon me, at the outside corner and at the nickel position. But it does just gives you some more flexibility there.
Nick, last week, Hassan got his first sack of the season after obviously having a big year last year. When you have a guy who maybe from an individual standpoint isn't getting the numbers that he might want, or maybe isn't performing in the way he might want.
Yeah, I would only say that first part, but go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you ever have to handle that? Do you leave that to guys generally? Do you ever step in and say, hey,
Sure, I'm always in constant communication with all our guys. That's the piece of connecting. I'm trying to find things ways to connect with everybody, and that connection isn't only when things are good, but also when bad, right? You can't be a tight team if you're only in good times tight, right? It's good times and bad times, and I'm not saying that's a bad time for anything, because when you asked me that question, my initial spot was, well, he's still getting pressures. He's still pressuring the quarterback. Sacks just come in waves, and they tend to come in waves. He got his first sack, but that doesn't mean he hasn't changed the game because of the way he's been putting pressure on the quarterback. It's just the first time he actually got him down to the ground in this particular case. But those things come in waves. But I think I answered your question as far as the connection part in good times and bad times. I just don't believe that this is a bad time with Hassan, but I'm always finding ways to talk to the guys about different things.
How has your interaction with the defensive coordinator changed on a weekly basis now that you have someone that you're just starting to get to know versus Gannon, who you knew previously?
Yeah, I don't think it's the get to know. It's the get to know in the game, within the game of football, right? And so I spent the same amount of time with. I would say I spent about the same amount of time with Gannon in season last year in our second year together as I do with Sean right now. But there was obviously a catch up, of things that I had a vision for the defense and different things like that. There was some catch up to be played, where Gannon and I had a lot of years together. We had to make that up. You know, I couldn't, we had to get to where we were last year with all our thoughts on, as far as my thoughts situationally, all these different things, you know, that we were last year with Gannon in an off season, right? So there was more time spent there in that particular case, because again, I hired Sean to do a job, and I think he's doing a great job. But I also have to be very clear of what the description is of the job and what I require in certain situations, right? And so even though I'm hiring him to do a job and I don't want to micromanage by any means, I still have visions of things the way they're supposed to, that I want them to look like as the head football coach, because at the end of the day, everything out there has my name on it. And so it was just Jeff Moore catching him up, trying to do everything we could do to catch him up to a point of, so we're not taking a step back, you know, when we started the season. And I felt like we worked really hard at that, and it showed up in some situational things that, and some of the things that we've discussed in a positive way.
Nick,
Nick,
I
I
know
know-
about Sean and Brian, and you mentioned the word micromanage there. How do you tote that line and make sure that what you're doing isn't micromanaging and you're allowing those guys to do their jobs?
Yeah, again, I have to just be very clear of what my job description is. And this is what we say to the players too. Hey, here's what the job, our job, how do we get better every day? Well, one, it's high detail in meetings. And that high detail in meetings starts with us as coaches just painting the job description very clear. Here's what I want you to do versus this. Here's what I want you to do versus this. Here's what I want you to do versus this. Am I doing more on offense than I am on defense? Yes. But you know, micromanaging and then just being very detailed, those are two different things, or a fine line in between them. I don't know. But again, I want Sean to know how I see it as an offensive point of view, right? You know, I want him to see it how I, you know, what it looks like from an offensive point of view, because the thing, you know, one thing that I know is that when I learn defense more and more, I get, you know, or the more in my career, when I took another step of learning defenses, I became a better offensive coach. Well, that's my job to do with Sean. That, like, I'm trying to give you guys information, but it's not like I'm saying do this right here, right. Like, it's not how that goes down. Like, that's micromanaging, in my opinion. Ours is just as a constant attempt to get better, and letting me, like, you know, let them know what I require, and what I'm looking for. So is there times where it is that I want this? Yeah, but again, I'm the head coach. If that's micromanaging, it is. But you know, at the end of the day, like I said, my name's on the product out in the field, and that's my job as a head coach.
Nick, with Sidney Brown, he's obviously a young guy who's been able to handle, I know he's hurt right now, or was hurt, but handle the slot, safety, you're comfortable moving him around. What does it take for a young guy, for you to have the comfort level to give him multiple things? I know there's overlap, but it's a lot. And,
Yeah.
And how unusual is that, I guess?
You know, he's very sharp, really sharp guy, and high football IQ. We knew that with him coming in, and we knew, you know, you don't want to overload anybody. You know, we don't want to overload a guy playing a certain position. We don't want to overload anybody. Jason, Jalen, right? Those are guys that do a lot. You know, we don't want to overload anybody, because then you just give them too much to think about. That's not a good thing. So there's a balance in there, but I think it all starts with Sidney, the guy that, you know, his football IQ is high and he's able to handle a lot, and we need his versatility, and that's another reason why we have him here. So I think he's done a nice job handling that, and looking forward to getting him back.
What happened these past 2 months, or I guess what did you see that made Sua the clear top option at right guard?
Yeah, just his performance of what he's done. Like I said, he played an unbelievable game on Sunday, and so that's confidence, you know, of games that he's played. He didn't play as much last year, but in 2021 gave us a lot, and even before that, I'm just saying, in the time I've been here, he gave us some really good. We won some big games with him in 21 on that field. We know he has great power. You know, he really can do the things that we require of our guards to do. And so we have a lot of faith in him based off his previous games that he's played. But, you know, that faith really gets built year in, year out. It is a what have you done for me lately league. We understand that. So it's built through the practice, right? And this is his first extended opportunity to go in a game this season, and I thought he did an outstanding job. But it's just the weekly, everything's evaluated, and it's the weekly product that he's put on the field.
I was going to ask you about, as far as, Jason Kelsey said on the podcast yesterday that the league sent a letter to you guys alerting you to the fact that you're lining up off sides on the tush-push play, and he also said Dickerson wasn't off sides on that, and Deron Payne had his hand under the ball at the snap. And what's your reaction to those three things?
Again, anything, we'll just keep our conversations with the league private, like anything that they said back to us, if we turn anything in or anything like that, they do a great job of giving us information, and I just want to keep those conversations private with us and the NFL. But, we have to make sure, we have to make sure that we don't leave any doubt on the field that we're legal during that play, because what Jason said, there was an emphasis on it this week. And I'm not here to argue whether I thought the call was right or wrong, on that. Well, I'm always going to think that we're right in it. But again, league does a good job of giving us information. We understand that the referees have a tough job to do. I'm never going to criticize that aspect of it. I know they got a tough job. Are all the calls going to go the way we want them to go? No. Are they always going to be right? No, but neither is what I do. So, I'll just keep it at that.
Last one, Ella.
Nick, we always talk to you about your process and how that's a huge philosophy for you, sticking to your process. You've seen Thursday Night Football, you've seen Monday Night Football. Now you're going across the country. How does that impact perhaps your process this week to get the guys ready for such a big trip?
Sure, yeah, good question. Every different scenario has a different process, right? That we're constantly trying to perfect. So you can't perfect your process unless you know exactly what your process is. So, and not only that, take that a step further, and that you're constantly evaluating that process. We know exactly what it is. At the end of us doing it, we evaluate it and say, hey, did we handle this Monday night game? What are suggestions of the players? What are suggestions of the other coaches? What are my thoughts? And how do we tweak what that looks like? So, we've had a couple different West Coast trips that we've had here in the past couple years. Las Vegas, Denver. What was last year? Arizona. And so now that coming off of Arizona, we've had conversations. Hey, what did we not like? What did we like? I think the biggest difference, without getting too much into it, is the Saturday schedule of what we're doing. More so when we, here, maybe leaving a little bit later, but also, when we get there and the time change of they don't need to hear my voice over and over when we get there. So the meetings are a little bit shorter when we get there. So it's all about that. It's because it's a trial and error thing. I got to go, but it's a trial and error thing. You feel things like that, but that's why you have the evaluation of every process that you have. Thanks, everybody.